you're listening and you're tuned in, we're just setting up our live simulcast push onto the Town of Mammoth Lakes Facebook page. So if you want to watch on Facebook Live, you can do so on the Town of Mammoth Lakes Facebook page. We'll just get going in a few seconds here.
All right, Stu, we are good to go.
And good evening, Mammoth Lakes residents throughout our entire county. This is the Creek Fire community presentation. We have a long list of presenters this evening. I want to thank each and every one of them for taking the time out of their day to join us this evening to give us an update on the Creek Fire. Also want to thank Jennifer from the Creek Fire PIO team. I want to thank Justin for helping us out, Mono County IT for putting this together. It's always a big undertaking, so I want to make sure everybody's logged in and can access the presentation here on Zoom. And as I said, it's also being pushed and live on the Town of Mammoth Lakes Facebook site. So I am Stuart Brown, the Town of Mammoth Lakes Public Information Officer. With us this evening is Evans, the Deputy Incident Commander from the Great Basin Team 1 over there at the Creek Fire. We have Jason Wingard, Poncho Smith, the Acting Forest Supervisor of the International Forest, Sheriff Braun. We have Chief Freevolt, Mammoth Lakes Fire Protection District, and we have Town Manager Dan Holler and Chief Al Davis on the call as well. Once we get through the presentations, we will kick things into a Q&A, and we'll try and get through all your questions as much as we can and as quickly as you can. We also have a Spanish translator with us this evening as well. So if you wish to communicate and ask a question in Spanish to any of the presenters this evening, just do so on the chat. So type in on the chat your question and we'll get that taken care of with our translator this evening. Just a couple of information resources. We've just updated and loaded this new website here. This is now on the Mono County website. You can see the address right at the bottom there. This was pushed live today. You can still access it from the Town of Mammoth Lakes news flash page. And this gives you all the resources, any fire alerts, a real-time map of the fire as well, and air quality. And you can also click there and get the incident overview from the Creek Fire team. This is the Creek Fire team website. You can get that through fire.ca.gov right there at the bottom. That's the page you'll get to each and every day. And then the most updated one, Jennifer and her team manage this site here, Sierra National Forest Facebook page. So make sure you do check out those resources for you. They're updated frequently as well. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Evans from the Creek Fire Incident Management team. He's going to just take a few seconds to upload his screen. Evans?
Good evening, everybody. I'll give you a minute to put the Google Earth display up. So what you're seeing is an infrared imagery of the perimeter of the Creek Fire that was taken last night, just shortly before midnight. As you all probably know, the Creek Fire started the Friday before Labor Day weekend. Our team, the Great Basin Team 1, we're from the Great Basin, which is comprised of Nevada, Utah, Idaho, and a little part of Wyoming. We've been here since Sunday night, and we assumed command of the fire on Tuesday. Along with our team, we've zoned the Creek Fire out because of its current size with the CAL FIRE Team 1. Nick Truach is the incident commander. So our team, Great Basin Team 1, we are managing the west and north side of the fire, and the CAL FIRE team is managing the east and south side of the fire. The fire as of last night or this evening is 220,000 acres, 18% contained. The majority of the containment that we're reporting is more on the southern end of the fire, from about Castledale Woods on the west side all the way down to the San Joaquin River, and then portions of the fire on the south side. We're starting to show containment, as well as around Shaver Lake in the middle of the screen, where quite a bit of firefighting activity has been taking place, as well as up by Huntington Lake to protect all those communities. Our current actions to date that we've been taking have primarily been focused on trying to secure the fire perimeter near all the communities on the south, the Mountain Lake communities up by Huntington, Shaver Lake, and then on the south side, such as Aubrey, Prather, and then over on the west side, such as Bass Lake, North Fork, South Fork, and Cassadell Woods. I know probably of a very importance or interest of the folks at Mammoth Lakes is the fire activity on the north side. Today, the fire activity did pick up. A lot of where you see some of these the more red shaded areas up on the north side of the fire burning up towards the what the local areas they call the 81 road system and the B Shore Road. And so we tried to put some firing action or firing operations on the ground. In fact, you can see what I'm showing right in the middle of the screen is we burned out around the Minarets Pack Station to try to protect the facility there. And then the road going south of there, we also laid some fire down attached to the main fire. This infrared imagery does not show that. It will, tonight's infrared imagery that we get this evening will hopefully show that. And our intent of doing that was try to burn out some of those fuels out ahead of it so that when the fire did reach the Minarets Pack Station, it did burn with a very high intensity. And we're also hoping that it might either hold on the roads or some of the rock formation that you see out to the east and north. Further back along the B Shore Road, back to the west and northwest flanks, the fire activity was active, but it wasn't, the winds were kind of blowing from the southwest to the northeast, so it wasn't really pushing it very hard. However, a lot of that wind was pushing it on the south side of the San Joaquin River. Maybe zoom out so you have a better perspective. So on the northeast side of the fire, kind of in the vicinity of Mount Tom, it was fairly active. On the east side, there's quite a bit of rock in the South Fork of the San Joaquin River drainage bottom itself. So we've been monitoring that very closely to see if it's going to cross. But for the most part, the fire activity was very active on the east side for just, northeast of Mount Tom, following all the unburned fuels. And wherever it hits the rock, we're starting to see some signs of it slowing down. So as far as what we have coming up, the white area that I'm showing up to the north is just below Mammoth Mountain. That's the old Lion's Head fire scar from 2018. I'll touch on that in a minute. But the weather that we were expecting over the course of like Wednesday through Friday is tomorrow we're expecting to see very similar conditions that we had today with some increasing winds out of the west-southwest. Yes, it will probably make the north and northeast side of the fire active. And then the winds on Thursday, we're expecting to see a wind event go for about 24 hours from about Thursday afternoon through Friday, sometime about midday. The winds will probably start out in the 10 to 15 mile an hour range, but then increase in the afternoon especially up on the Sierra Crest around the 20, 30 mile an hour range, then increasing Thursday night, potentially up to 40 to 50 miles an hour with possible gusts 60 to 70, especially in some of the drainage bottoms out ahead up on the very top of the crest by Mammoth Mountain, where the wind seems to, the topography acts as a funnel and just channels the wind up through there. But down lower on the fire, we're hoping that the winds will be a little more mild and not quite as extreme as those higher 50 to 70 mile an hour gusts. That being said, the winds are very much of a concern since it is blowing it in the direction of Mammoth Lakes. However, as you can see from the aerial view, there's quite a bit of granite rock outcropping up in that country. There's not as dense the timbers on the south side of the South Fork of the river, and then up on the north of the other side of the river, up by Squaw Dome and Blue Dome, we have a lot more rock outcropping, as well as the fire scar from 2018's Lion's Head fire scar. That being said, we are monitoring the situation very closely, and these yellow lines that you're seeing are what we call them management action points, MAPs, or commonly also known as trigger points. So the first trigger point, as you can see, the fire burns right through, or it burned into the yellow line. That occurred a number of days ago. That triggered a lot of the actions to start coordinating with the Inyo National Forest, Mono County, and then the Park Service that manages the Devil's Postal National Monument. We stood up a small organization over on that side of using a lot of the local Inyo National Forest resources, and we've been taking some actions at the Devil's Postpile National Monument headquarters, as well as Red Meadows Pack Station, to start installing sprinkler kits portable tanks, pumps, and hose to, in the event the fire did manage to make it to those areas, we could use that to protect the structures and the improvements in the area. The next line that you see, the next yellow line that you see that runs right across Pincushion Peak is our next trigger point, which we have not yet, the fire has not yet breached. We're developing the action items that we would undertake if the fire were to make it to Pincushion Mountain. A lot of it has to do with notifications to many of the folks that we've already notified, but provide more regular updates, provide an assessment of what the fire is doing and what we think it, we'll be able to report out if it is able to burn into the rocks, or if the rocks are being successful on slowing and checking the fire. And then at the same time, we're also going to be looking at, do we have a sufficient number of resources over on the Mammoth Mountain, Mammoth Lake side for what the type of fire behavior we're expecting. What I don't have on this map or the Google Earth display is the next trigger point. We're in the process of putting that into our GIS database, but it's basically the Fish Creek area. Now we're starting to get much closer towards Mammoth Lakes, and as well as the ski resorts in Lake George area, the Lake Basin. So at that point, we would probably ramp up the level of activities that we have. You'll probably see an increased presence on your side of the mountain to manage the fire if it comes towards that area, as well as start discussing with Mono County Sheriff's Office the need for evacuation warnings or advisory warnings to alert the publics in the area that live on the outskirts of town that we have an increased threat of the fire pushing that way. Most of this, I want to just say that a lot of this is contingency planning, but I wanted to give you a sense of the actions that we would likely be taking in the event the fire did start coming under the influence of the winds and pushing towards into the northeast. Following the wind event Friday afternoon, we're expecting to see the winds die down along with more moderating conditions, cooler temperatures, as well as much significantly lighter winds, and a possible chance, I don't want to hang our hopes on this, but a chance of some mountain showers up on the Sierra Crest, which probably won't put the fire out, but the higher humidities will help tone down the fire effects, and then also cause the fuels to have to recover a little bit longer the next day when after the sun gets on it. But I'm also seeing some forecast predictions for temperatures in the high 20s or very low 30s, which also has an effect of reducing fire spread and limiting the number of hours during the day that the fire can burn actively. So I guess I'll pause there and turn it over to Jason.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Evans, for giving us that update. A lot of good information sharing. And I just want to introduce myself. So my name is Jason Wingard. I'm detailed as the division chief for the Mammoth Lakes District, Inyo National Forest. Usually my day job here is the battalion chief here on the district as well. So I've lived and worked here since 2000. So I've had a lot of experience with fires in our backcountry. And I was at one point the incident commander for the Lions fire back in 2018. So I have seen some of this fire behavior before and have experience in the fuel types that it's currently burning in. I do want to thank the Great Basin Team 1 and the CAL FIRE Team 1. We have had a lot of conversations and a lot of meetings with the cooperators for Mono County. We are meeting regularly, communicating concerns from all parties. The teams have been very open to us and accommodating with what our concerns here over on the east side. With the work that is going on down in Red's Meadow at the Devil's Post Pile and Pack Station, that is work that what we're doing down there is we're being very proactive if and when the fire does make it to us, if it ever does. But basically, we're just down there having a proactive management response to this instead of being reactive. So if that fire does make its way here, the work is done, and we're ready to meet it head on. So other than that, I will be more than happy to answer anybody's questions when the question and answer time comes about. Thank you.
I'm going to turn it to Poncho. Have you heard any updates you'd like to provide the public with at all? Thank you. Just hit your mute button there, Poncho. Sorry. There you go.
Thank you. That was the best part of my talk, too.
Yeah. Practice.
Thanks a lot. Introduce myself. I'm Poncho Smith, the acting forest supervisor for the Inyo National Forest, stationed down here in Bishop. I've been here for a while, not as long as Jason has, but I've been here for a while. And you've got a great community here. There's some of the most beautiful country in the world, and I'm sure that you're nervous about what's happening up here, and I can empathize with that. I was talking to the Town of Mammoth Lakes fire chief the other day, and I have had the unfortunate pleasure or task of evacuating towns in 3 states. I don't want to do it again, and I don't think we're going to get to that point. But I do understand the issues. I understand your concerns. You guys are smoked in. It's ugly. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty goes on. You look at the smoke, you wonder how close the fire is, and you realize that, you know, when you really back up and look at it, it's still a long ways away. There's a lot of miles. There's a lot of granite in between your communities and the fire. So I do understand it. It's hard, but we do understand. And also, my folks here are part of the community. They live here all the time. They're part of the community, and they do understand the issues also. So I feel for you. I'm sorry this is happening to you. If I was telling somebody today, if I could find a big old fan, just blow that, just to blow the smoke away, would make our lives a little better. So as forest supervisor, my job is to ensure, and I will ensure, that if the fire gets up to that Fish Creek management action point, and even now I'm working with the team, but my job is to ensure that we have the resources here to do the job that needs to be done. And again, we're in constant communication, the Forest Service, myself and Jason and others are in constant communication with Frank, your fire chief, with Sheriff Braun, with the Town of Mammoth Lakes, the Park Service, the BLM. We're in constant contact with them all the time. And my job is to ensure that we're all working together and as a team, and that we have the resources here to deal with the issue when and if it arises. And I'm looking at it and thinking, boy, it's hung up in the rocks. And Evan gave a great presentation on what's going on. It's hung up in the rocks, and we want it to stay there. Okay. But if it doesn't, we are prepared, and we'll be prepared. So just so folks know, and we do have a plan. We have our management action points, as Evan pointed out, and all of your agencies are working together to and will continue to work together on this issue as it arises. And right now, I'm sorry, it's just smoke. And like I said, I wish we could do something about that, but we can't. But as things get closer, and we will communicate what those plans are, we will be talking to folks. And so I appreciate everybody signing on tonight. Again, I'll be available to answer questions, as will Jason, and during the Q&A part of this presentation. So thanks a lot. Thanks, Stuart.
Thank you, Poncho. I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Braun.
Hi there. Thanks, Stu.
Welcome.
So I'm looking at the chat or the Q&A, and I'm seeing a lot of questions about evacuations, and I know that's a big concern for everybody. So as Evans and Jason and Poncho were talking about, we have management action points that will point us in the direction of what do we need to do next. And that's why we're in constant communication. We do have that stage. So let me tell you how this will happen. We're going to hit one of those management action points for warnings, for an evacuation warning. That's Fish Creek. We're hoping it doesn't get there. We don't think it will get there, but in case it does get there, we want you to be prepared. So you will get a Code Red notification if you're signed up for Code Red. Everybody would get an iPause notification. That's where your phone starts screaming at you, look at me, look at me, look at me. And there's an alert to look at. And it will tell you what you need to do, what website you need to go to. So I'm going to share the screen of what the county has put together of, there it is, share. So this is the Creek Fire incident screen that the county has put together, Nate Greenberg's team. They're the IT for both the county and the town. And this is the new website to go to for this. It's on.mono.ca.gov/creekfire. And this will give you all the up-to-date information. If there is an evacuation warning, it will be on there. That will have the information that you need to know. You could be able to type in your address, am I under an evacuation order, warning, whatever. This has also got, you can scroll down real-time status. It gives you air quality index. It gives you the fire perimeter. It gives you social media. It's a really amazing site. So this is your hub for where you need to find out the information that you need for this. I'm going to stop sharing that screen because you all can see it for yourself in a bit. So that's how that'll work. So evacuation warning could go out, and that will just tell you what's coming, to be prepared. Somebody asked, should I have a bag packed? Well, you live in the forest. You should always be prepared for this. If the creek fire doesn't get here, it could be some other fire. It could be an errant camper. It could be a lightning strike. There's all kinds of things that could happen. We live in the forest. We should always be ready to go. Have a go bag. Know where your important things are. Be ready at a drop of a hat to get out of town. Literally get out of town. But so the warning is that it's just a warning. It's to let you know, hey, this could be coming. It's not a time to panic. I don't want anybody to panic now. We are not in the evacuation setting yet. Hopefully we never get there. Now, if it gets to an evacuation order, same thing is going to happen. Code Red's going to go out, IPOS is going to go out, and deputies and police officers and search and rescue and CERT are going to go door to door through Mammoth Lakes, knock on every door, and say, get out, get out, get out. So we're going to make sure that that message is received by everybody who's in town. One of the questions I saw is a visitor saying, should I come to town? I don't know why you'd want to right now. You can't breathe. The forests are closed. It's not worth it. Stay home, save your money, do it some other time when you can really enjoy it. Come back when we have good weather. Come back in the fall for the fall colors. Just not now. It's not a really good time to be here. I hate to be to rain on your parade. Rain would be great, but it's not the time to visit. We don't need the extra bodies in town, especially if we have a fire on the other side of the Sierra that could potentially get here. And potential is really small, but it's there. So be prepared. We are also working with our social services to have a temporary evacuation point set up. So people who need assistance with sheltering will get that assistance. And should that come, we'll let you know where that location is. We're not there. Don't panic, just be prepared. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover on that, and I will be happy to answer any questions that haven't been answered with what I've already said.
Thank you, Sheriff Braun. Very detailed as always. Thank you. And we believe that the new website has been pushed out to all attendees. So please make sure you bookmark that new website from the county. That's your new resource. And in there also has links to the CAL FIRE page, the Facebook page from the Creek Fire Incident Management Team. With that, I will pass it over to Chief Freevolt.
Thank you, Stu. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for sharing some time with us. I know everybody's got lots to do, but it looks like a little over 1,000 participants, so there must be some interest. We'll try to keep this short. We've had a lot of other items covered. First and foremost, know that your community is properly plugged into the incident. We have some excellent regular dialogue going with our federal cooperators, both locally here and on the incident. I feel very, very comfortable and honestly grateful that they've got a ton of things going on, and they're spending important time with us, and I want to recognize that they've got a lot going on. They understand our situation. I've worked with our operational area coordinator to make sure that we kept some resources close here as well. So we have up to 15 local government engines available to come into Mammoth, plus the remaining engines I would have in town here, about 4. I know that the forest is in situation where they do have some resources, but they may be, needed to go elsewhere. And we're going to trust that management team's judgment on that. We'd want them to do that for us, and they may need to do it for others. So I feel very comfortable with that. We have a solid evacuation plan. I've been working with Sheriff Braun's officers as well as MLPD officers. If you want to look at what the mapping would look like, it's identical to what Madera County has been using. So we're not doing anything new there. Again, I'll underscore what he also said. We are not at an evacuation spot. Just because we're mentioning it doesn't mean we're there. It means that we're doing prudent planning, prudent preparation, so that if we have to do that, we do it with plenty of notice and a solid plan. The fire is a long ways away, probably roughly 15 miles, lots of granite. That said, we're also in historic times. We do have some strong winds coming up, and it's just prudent to make sure that you understand that has our full and complete attention. We're watching with our partners. Also, to underscore Sheriff Braun's point, if you're not really sure what it means to get ready to go, somebody already dreamed this up. It's called Ready, Set, Go. National program, solid, short. You can go to Mammoth Fire's website, and very easy to just kind of get some ideas on what you would do there. So I'll leave it to that so we can get to some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And thank you all the presenters. Very detailed, very informative, very appreciated. Thank you. Justin, let's roll to some of the questions. Again, if you do have a question in Spanish, please type it in the chat box. We have a translator available, and we'll try and get to all the questions in as much time as we can. So thank you. Justin?
Sure, thanks, Stu. We will go through the questions and we'll try to consolidate when we can as well. So please know that if your exact question is not answered, it was probably consolidated with a larger discussion. Is there a specific reason why the fire is not being tackled using airplanes and helicopters with fire retardant at the northeast edge of the fire?
I could tackle that. Yes, the visibility. So with the smoke, I think everyone's seeing it kind of in town, especially today here in Mammoth Lakes. I think at most I could see maybe up to a quarter mile. And, the pilots, the aircraft, they just can't see through that smoke for it to be safe for them to do the retardant drops with the fixed wing as well as the rotor wing. The smoke's too thick, and also at the airports and the heli bases, they're in inversions as well and smoke, so it's hard for them to lift off and land as well safely. I think they are at the ready for when the smoke does lift up and get out, then they will be able to go to work and help the firefighters out on the ground, cool off some of those hot edges.
And this is Evans Quo, the Deputy IC on Great Basin Team 1. Jason's explanation was spot on. The inversion that has been occurring region-wide, not only from the Creek Fire, but also the Sequoia Complex to our south, has been causing some extreme visibility limitations.
Thank you both. Justin, next question.
Why is Edison planning a power outage Friday when we need our phones and devices to work and be charged?
I'll take that one. We started to see some of that pop up on the maps today. I did put a call in immediately to Cal Rossi when I heard that. He's looking into it. I made it really clear to him that they have IMTs that incident management teams that they stand up as well with PSPS potential events. I made sure that he understood we wanted him to have his IMTs look at our situation, and that we really would not want to have a PSPS occurring at a time when we might be looking at an evacuation. As unlikely as that is, those are two things we don't want to have happen at the same time.
Next question, Justin. Thank you, Chief.
I am a second homeowner in town. At what warning or alert level would be prohibited from gaining access to our home to gather basic belongings and get back out of town?
Ingrid, sorry, Chief.
So when we're in a warning stage, which would be the preliminary, assuming we have enough time for that, assuming we even get there, you would be able to come and go and get things from your house. Once we're under an evacuation order, you can get out, but you won't be able to get back in. So if you are a second homeowner and you're really concerned about it, if once we're in a warning phase, then that's when people can still come and go. It's just when you need to get ready. So that's exactly what you're doing. Once we're in an order, evacuation order, nobody's getting back in.
Thank you, Sheriff. Justin.
It appears the chances of the fire getting to Mammoth are low. What about embers falling in Mammoth? There's been a lot of talk about that around town.
I'll start that one and then let Jason jump in as well. Now, it's actually a drill that we've done before here with our fire district, because that is kind of the scenario where we've got a great chunk of granite on the crest off to our west. But we do know that we could get some ember cast in here. And so we have trained on the process for trying to keep up with spots. We also know that eventually, if there's too many of those and you start to have them accrue faster than you can pick them up, then you need to pull out of that area, let those coalesce and pick another line. So again, unlikely that we get there, but it is something that we've trained on. And we can't get equipment into where the fire's at now. It's just remote. The first time we start having any roadways to work on that are in the Lakes Basin area.
Thank you, Chief. Justin.
Part of the fire has split off and appears to be heading toward Lake Edison, and with the projected winds could head into Little Lakes Valley. Do you foresee that event occurring?
I think that's a question for Evans.
Sorry, turning things back on.
Thank you.
Yeah. Given the direction of the wind, yes, it is a possibility. There are some natural barriers out in that area, such as the granite and rocks and other drainages that the fire would have to move through. But yeah, that is a distinct possibility. We are monitoring and tracking the fire progression and trying to take action where we have opportunities.
Thank you. Justin.
It appears that most of the resources are in the south. All of the talk is about what we will do if such and such happens. My question is, why aren't there more resources stopping the fire spreading northeast presently? Why wait?
Yep, I can try to take a stab at that one. So we do have some resources up on the north end, trying to do some firing actions to use some of the existing roadways to try to either slow or stall or even stop the fire spread on the north end. That being said, given the remoteness of the area, not as many values up there. Right now, our primary priority is on the south end to protect all the communities on the west side, from Bass Lake, North Fork, all the way down on the south end of Aubrey, Prather, and then up on the mountain communities up on the southeast side, such as Shaver Lake and Huntington.
Real quick, I want to support that those two incident management teams are making tough decisions with scarce resources. Spot on, they've got those resources where they should be. They've lost in excess of 500 structures there that they know of. They're still having a hard time with getting containment in some of those areas. I'd want that attention if we were in that situation. And I feel confident that if things got closer here, they will pivot and support us with the resources that we need.
Thank you, Chief.
Justin.
Is there a chance we will get evacuated due to really poor air quality because everything is about the fire? What about local health? If so, what would that be a probability?
There's no evacuation order process I'm aware of for smoke itself. I did speak with our public health officer, Dr. Boo, also with Dr. Burrows. Many of you have seen on our good community conversations, just to see if they were experiencing higher levels of hospital admissions or other areas of health concern in there. We just know it's just bad for you. It's just terrible, as the sheriff said. But I'm unaware of any level at which we hit that forces an evacuation due to air quality.
And if I could tag onto that evacuation order would come from me, and where would you go? If the whole state, the whole West is covered in smoke, we don't have a place to evacuate you to. That would be part of the process, is we need to send you somewhere. So people clearly can make their own decisions looking at the air and judging on their own capabilities and how their lungs are reacting as to whether they can tolerate the smoke or not.
Thank you both. Justin, next question.
Is fire line being proactively cut in the Fish Creek area to head off the northern front of the fire? How many crews are backing up and the natural barriers?
So not at this time. The fire, until the fire looks like it's likely to move into the Fish Creek area, we have not started working any resources on that side other than where we have them at Devil's Post Pile, Monument, and Red Meadows.
Thank you, Evans. Justin?
Will the full forest closure of the Inyo National Forest be reevaluated if the fire makes through the predicted wind event later this week and the threat diminishes?
That'll be Poncho.
Yeah, I can take that. The closure order right now is being evaluated on a daily basis. The regional foresters team in Vallejo is looking at and talking to the forest supervisors every day about the closure order. And so, you know, it is being evaluated every day. Right now it's extended through the 21st. We will continue to evaluate daily. And then on the 21st, we'll make that decision. And a lot of that decision is based on fire and fire activity, not just our fire, but all the fires that are burning in California. We're trying to prevent what happened with the Creek Fire where it ran and trapped a large number of people around the lake. We're trying to avoid those kind of situations.
Thank you, Poncho. Next question, Justin?
Sure. As a follow-up to that, is 203 the only way out, and how do you avoid it getting jammed?
Sheriff.
So I can answer that question. We have a plan for that. If it came to an evacuation order where 203 would be the only way out, it would be a one-way 4-lane going out of town. If emergency workers needed to come back in, they could come back in through scenic loop. That would be one way in. So we do have a plan for that. It will still get crowded, but we are fortunately in shoulder season, which hasn't happened in a while, but with no tourists here due to the forest closure. Thank you, Poncho. We do have less people in town. So it will be a traffic jam for sure, but it will be manageable.
And I would just quickly add on to that. If you are concerned about it, please help the problem by leaving early.
Chief Davis, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, and the plan is in place, and I personally don't think it will be a traffic jam. It's just going to be flowing steadily. We've got a great plan in place, and as long as everyone just goes along, and it's just like driving in downtown LA where you're driving 10 miles an hour at a time. And it's going to be easy to sweep people out on the 395. So I don't see a major issue with what we've got developed at this point. So not a concern in my part. Doesn't mean we're not aware of it, but it's a good plan.
Thank you. Justin.
Sticking with that theme, can you explain how that plan compares to other evacuation plans for deadly fires such as the Camp Fire or even current communities in Oregon?
Take a first shot at that, and then I certainly want to hear from our law enforcement partners as they're the ones executing the evacuation plans. One of the things we did learn from the Camp Fire is you can have a very, very detailed plan, which they did. It was outstanding. But if it's too rigid, sometimes the plan doesn't necessarily survive the condition. So we've taken the position of laying out a framework of how we define the area, make sure we have solid comms, we understand our routing, and then reserve the option to call audibles based on changes in conditions. So the plan is flexible enough to pivot off the conditions that we're facing. And I want to remind everybody, our focus right now is on the Camp Fire. But the fact is, we have a lot of wind coming up, and we have had fires in Mono County during windy periods, even into early February. So, keep your ears open and your eyes open, not just because of the Creek Fire, but because we've got a lot of wind coming during some very dry conditions. So just stay tuned.
Yeah, and to go on top of what Frank said, yes, a lot of audibles. That's what law enforcement is very good at, is changing on a whim of what we need to do and how we need to do it better, and talking with each other. And the comparison are most likely, if we are at that phase with the fire, from talking to my good friend Chief Revault and his expertise, we're going to be ahead of the game. It's not all of a sudden going to be on top of us and we're trying to get everyone out of town in the next, 20, 30 minutes. No, we're going to be ahead of the game, and those decisions are going to be made well in advance to where we're not putting people's lives at jeopardy to the point that we have to get everyone out within 2 hours or everything's going to be burned up. So very confident in what we've put together, and especially our partnerships between each one of the agencies, Mono County Sheriff's, the fire department, SAR, everything. So we're way ahead of this.
And that's why we have management action points, so that we can make these decisions with plenty of time, and we can move forward with them. And we will be pushing people away from the fire. The fire will be coming from the other side of the mountain, and we're going to be pushing people east away from the fire. So we should have plenty of room and time to get everybody out safely.
Thank you both. Justin, we've got just over 18 minutes. Let's see how we can pick some of the more, or the questions that maybe haven't been answered so far this evening. Thank you.
I've been raking up pine needles around my house. Mammoth Disposal continues to limit the number of bags that I bring at any one time to drop off. Can you order them to take an unlimited amount of bags at this time to help us with protecting property?
No, I don't think we can make that order. And the truth is, if the entire town decided to clean up all the pine needles in the next 2 days, there's no way we'd get rid of them in time. So we're essentially going to live with the preparation that we've done around our structures, largely up to this point. It's about embers. It's about embers. So be especially cognizant of keeping your decks clear. Get yourself 5 feet pulled back around the base of your structures, and be mindful of any, there's a lot of stuff we have out on our decks. Get that stuff cleaned up. Decks are kind of a weak spot. So no, we can't force that. And the truth is, at this point, we're going to live with pretty much the preparations we've done. You can do some last minute stuff, but we're not going to clean up town in 2 days.
Next question, Justin. Thank you.
Is the Forest Service planning to increase the number of staff to help with the elimination of illegal campers and people living full-time on Forest Service lands? From what I have heard and seen, you only have 2 staff members to do this huge task, which is so important to prevent forest fires.
We have increased our staff for the short term for the closure, and we've brought in people from out of state. We brought in law enforcement officers from out of state, and we've pulled our wilderness folks back out of the wilderness to help us patrol and deal with the closure, and just to reach out and contact people. And in the future, we are going to do the best that we can with the money that we have been given to hire people and to get them out working on the national forest. It comes down to a budget issue.
Justin?
What is the plan to evacuate people without cars or transportation in Mammoth?
That be,
One of the things
sorry, Chief. Yeah.
One of the reasons we're having this discussion now, long before, let me repeat it again, we can say it 10 times, we're under no evacuation warnings, pre-warnings, etc. But one of the reasons we're having the discussion now is to have you start thinking about those things as well. If you don't have transportation, you can start now by determining how you would travel with someone in your neighborhood, a friend. We certainly have ESTA available if you need to start moving towards another location. The key is we're having this discussion early so you can start sorting some of those things out yourself. If you really are stuck, you have no idea how you're going to get out of town, then you can reach out to any of the public officials here and we can start working on that. But this is about discussing it now and thinking about solving those issues at the individual level.
How does your fire information apply to Crowley and June Lake in terms of what is anticipated in fire activity and evacuation?
Well, I can start from an evacuation standpoint, and what the conversations that we've had with the fire managers so far. There's no indication and a lot of terrain for this fire to get to Crowley or to June Lake. It would be a substantial leap for it to get there. So that is not something that we're looking at as a concern right now. The priority in the closest residential neighborhood is Mammoth Lakes. June Lake and Crowley Lake are not really within reach of this fire at this time.
Anybody else want to jump on that? We do have a question. Umberto, did you want to read that question? And then we can have a presenter respond to that question. Thank you.
Yes, this question is, in case of an evacuation, where can we go? Is Bishop an option?
Is that you, Sheriff Braun?
That's me. So for now, what we will probably look at for a temporary evacuation point for people who need assistance in shelter, it would likely be Bishop. That is what our social services department is working on, a plan, because that's the closest community that's got lodging that is far enough away from the fire. So it probably would be Bishop. That information will be provided if we ever get to that point. We're really hopeful that we don't get there, but likely it would be Bishop, yes.
Entonces, en este momento se está haciendo una valoración. No esperamos que lleguemos a ese punto, pero de ser necesario, Bishop sería la opción para evacuación.
Gracias. Justin, I think we're back to you.
How about having owners register unoccupied homes? It could save a lot of time and door knocking should things get hairy.
Well, I like that idea. We're still going to knock on every door just to make sure. We don't want to have a second homeowner come up here and not get notified because they registered their house is not anticipating being here. It is a good idea, but we will still knock on every door.
Thank you. Justin.
Sure, 1 second.
Second.
If it becomes appropriate to move resources across to our side of the mountain, how long will it take? Jumped on me. How long will it take to reposition people and equipment? Tioga Road in Yosemite is currently impacted by Blue Jay fire with wildfire approaching. If 120 is closed at the critical moment, how much would that delay moving resources?
So right now, our primary plan is to start off with using local resources on that side of the mountain, and to buy us time while we move people around from our side, or start placing orders coming from elsewhere that doesn't involve having to go through the park.
Can I piggyback on that? And can you expand a little bit more on the resource or lack of resources because of all the fires going on and where all the resources have come from? Because it's all over the United States. We're pulling in resources and equipment and everything else. And I think it's really important that people have an idea of how limited stuff is available to us at this point right now. Thank you.
Certainly. So nationally, there's quite a bit of fire activity all the way from Washington all the way down to Southern California, as well as some of the interior Western states such as Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Nevada, and Utah. So we are in what we call National Preparedness Level 5. That is 1 through 5, 5 being the highest. Out of that, so nationally we're in PL5, but California, both north and south, as well as Washington and Oregon, are in PL5 as well locally. And then the Great Basin, the geographic area off to our east, is probably in PL4. So overall, there's probably about 70 some odd large wildfires contained. We have over 40 teams like myself, like our team, deployed across the country, and approximately a little over 30,000 firefighters committed nationwide. So the situation is pretty dire. Periodically we get into these type of situations, but at the same time, we also have to maintain a focus on emerging fires and initial attack. So while we have a very heavy resource commitment to all the large fires, we still also have some local resources that are identified for initial attack or emerging incidents such as what we're talking about.
And real quick, if I could add on that, the way that we get on the radar is exactly what we've been doing with Great Basin Team 1. Is they get plugged into the situation here, they share that at a regional level, and we compete for scarce resources. So we paint an accurate picture. The people that have to divvy up those resources make tough decisions. Like I say, we have about 15 engines plus another 3 or 4 that I can throw in that we have here in the district. And that's what we're going to have for a while. So again, we're having these discussions early. Stay tuned to the weather. Pay attention. Visit our Ready, Set, Go page. And again, fire's a long ways away. Lots of barriers, but it's prudent to pay attention, especially through Friday with the winds that are coming up.
Thank you, Evans. Thank you, Chief. Justin, next question.
I assume you are aware of the hazards posed by the thousands of burn piles in the Lakes Basin. Is there a plan to deal with these with the general fire threat? And what is the plan for burning these in the near future?
Would that be Jason? Would you answer that? Thank you.
Sure, I'll do my best to answer that. So yeah, the piles in the Lakes Basin that's been made, basically, a lot of that is changing the arrangements and continuity of the fuels. It's a lot of the crown spacing for the timber. We've changed a lot of those tight spacings. Now it's a lot more open. So you're going to see a lot more sustained ability for the timber to sustain crown fire runs through there. It'll keep fire on the ground and make it more suitable for ground resources to be able to fight the fire in the event that it does come through there. At the moment, we are working on the district, for the Mammoth Lakes District on the Indian National Forest. We come up with our prescribed fire plans and other things. So when we go up to the Lakes Basin to burn those piles here in the future, we could do it successfully, looking at things like winds, where the smoke's going, things like that, so we don't impact the town or its infrastructure. Mainly, we do our pile burning during the winter when all the piles are surrounded by feet of snow, so we don't have to worry about any chance of escape. And then with those arrangements being changed, the flame lengths that come out of the piles, they don't get into the trees because they're more open, and you won't see any fire moving through the timber stand. So hope that answers the question.
Do you want to follow up, Chief Freevolt? Are you okay? We'll keep moving on.
Just in general, I mean, all those fuels were on the ground spread out. That would provide continuity of ground spread. They're now into piles. There's certainly no way to cover all those. So there's no less fuel that was in there before. We just got it pulled into piles. So we're not going to fundamentally change that between now and by the time this fire's over.
So we're 750, almost 755. We have 100 and something 50 questions. We are posting the opportunity on the new website portal that we put up to have your questions answered via email. We're going to put that up right at the end. It's creekfire@townofmammoth.ca.gov. So if you do have a question regarding the creek fire, it's not answered this evening, email creekfire@townofmammoth.ca.gov. But what we'll try and do, if it's okay with the presenters, we'll kind of run to maybe 8:15, see how we do, see if we can kind of get to the majority of the questions, Justin, if they're all pretty similar. And we'll do the best we can. So thank you for everybody's patience. Really appreciate the opportunity to be with you all this evening and to answer all your questions. And we'll certainly be looking at doing another conversation in the future. So Justin, let's roll to the next question. Thank you.
Sure. I'm going to go with 2 of them. They're quick. Will emergency services use a high-low siren to announce an evacuation? And will there be any kind of message to discourage travel to town?
I'll start with not specifically a siren, but my team's going to be at least at minimum with the PA advising of mandatory evacuations to start with, or even just the normal messaging we have out. But yeah, PAs are a tool that we use, and it's not necessarily because how do we distinguish which siren is specific to evacuation versus a different one? So everyone uses different ones. Sheriff?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that question. The messaging will be to get out of town when there's the evacuation orders, so there won't be a way to come back into town other than through scenic loop, unless you're really good at the dirt roads. So we will be pushing people out of town for an evacuation order and not allowing them back in. We're not going to allow people to head back in towards danger.
Thank you. Justin, next question, please.
Do you have a plan in place for protecting the power plant if the fire gets into Mammoth?
The resources we had, as we said, are probably looking at south of 20 engines total. The power station itself has defensible space requirements around it as the utility manager. We're going to focus on evacuation and life safety first. We'll focus on protection of properties that we believe we can do so second, and I'd have to call that audible at the time based on where the fire is coming, resources available, and what I think is a threat.
And additionally, the power plant does not power Mammoth Lakes specifically. It goes into the power grid and is then spread around from there. So it's not, if that goes out, it doesn't mean we lose our power.
Thank you, Chief Davis. Chief Freevault. Justin, next question, please.
This question is for Chief Freevault. How do you decide where you send your resources throughout the state, and do you actually participate in this action?
Yes, we are active members in the California Master Mutual Aid Plan, have been for decades, long before I got here. That's the way the system works. As you heard from Evans with Great Basin Team 1, there's no way every community can have all the resources it needs to face massive wildfire or landslide or earthquake, etc. So California has one of the finest programs in the country. And so, yes, we ship our resources out and they bring them here. I've asked to keep those local while we go through this, and we've done that.
Thank you, Chief. Justin.
Going through, are the DWP water bodies such as Crowley Lake closed and off limits to boat and fishing?
Yes.
Sure. Yes.
Yes. DWP is working with the Forest Service and the county's orders, and they are closed. Yes.
Poncho's nodding. Thank you both.
I know there's a crew down at Reds Meadow Devil's Post Pile. What are they doing to protect the area exactly?
Jason.
This is Evan's call. I'll take that one, and Jason can jump in too since he's more intimately familiar. But we do have a crew over in that area, and they're working on installing hose pumps, sprinkler kits, and get everything set up, including like at Reds Meadows. There's a few places where we need to set up portable water tanks because there isn't a good water source right there. So they're doing a lot of that, a little bit of fuel manipulation, and also working on developing the firing plans if we had the time to do so. For that area, and also giving us looking for tactical opportunities. Jason, go ahead.
Well, that answers that pretty perfectly. I guess I could just add to that once again, like I stated before, just the actions that we're taking down there is we're being very proactive and trying not to be reactive, getting the work completed down there. So we're just staying out ahead of this thing. Like what we like to say is we're ahead of the power curve on it if the fire actually does make it our direction. And once again, this was able to happen with the direct communication that we are having with the incident management teams over on the Creek Fire. So this is one of the ways that we are cooperating and working with each other.
Great. Thank you, Evans. Thank you, Jason. Next question, Justin. Thank you.
How will you handle the looting situation once we're all evacuated, if it does come to that?
Let's start with the sheriff.
Well, I wanted Al to answer that one, but really, we don't foresee a looting situation here. We will be pushing people out, and we will be continuing to patrol as long as it's safe for us to have police officers and deputies patrolling the area.
there's no way to actually identify when or how dangerous it's going to be. I mean, it just really depends. Every situation is different, and we're going to help out as best we can, as long as we can. But we don't have those nifty little fire things to roll up in case the fire is going to roll over the police car. So if it's looking kind of bad, then yeah, we're not going to be in town, and there's only so much we can do. So and there's no way to legitimately answer that without knowing the circumstances at the time.
Thank you both. Umberto, we have a question in Spanish. Would you like to read that? And I'm assuming, looking at it, it's probably going to be directed to Sheriff Braun. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's not a question. It was just a comment that I found. The comment says, if someone needs assistance or support to register to Code Red, you may call the Public Health Department at 760-924-1830.
Yes, that is accurate. And also on the website that I shared earlier, there is a link to Code Red there. So they can do that online if they prefer to. But if they do need help doing that, yes, social services, and that's probably where that comment came from, can help with that.
Así es, esa información es correcta. También se puede encontrar un enlace para internet en lo que se compartió anteriormente, si alguien quiere registrarse de esa manera, pero también pueden llamar a el Departamento de Salud Público al número que apareció en un momento, 760-924-1830. Thank you.
Gracias. Thank you, Umberto. Thank you, Sheriff. Justin, next question, please. Thank you.
Is there a need for civilian volunteers, and are there any other opportunities for volunteers?
Maybe we'll go with the chief.
Well, first of all, we usually do a fire academy every year, and I certainly wouldn't want to push away any interest in supporting your local fire district. But given the amount of time that we have, the fluid nature of fires, really the best thing at this point, if you're not already plugged in with emergency services, be in that crowd that's looking to evacuate. We're really going to be better off at that point. But when it's over, come see us. We got an application waiting for you.
Yeah, trying to utilize volunteers at this point. The amount of training and everything that need to go into it is really not. It's same thing with the CERT team, the Community Emergency Response Team, or SAR. I mean, those opportunities are available throughout the year, but the ability to be able to train people up to where they're viable and we can actually utilize them and they know what they're doing without getting themselves in harm's way or hurt, really important. So Chief puts stuff out, SAR puts stuff out, CERT puts stuff out to try to get people on board, and we more than willing to have people join in.
Yeah,
Great.
I echo that for SAR, and also social services can always use volunteers for the Red Cross efforts and for sheltering when they get to that, but it's something that you need to be trained up for. So it's too short notice at this point, but there are plenty of opportunities in the future.
Very willing community. Thank you all. Justin, next question. Thank you.
Sure. I'm going to go back. We've addressed some of these at the very beginning, but since we've had new attendees, there's a lot of questions regarding the odds and a fire reaching town and the distance from town, and then the timing on when exactly an evacuation would be called, and the timing on when resources will be deployed within the town.
If Chief, do you want to cover that and perhaps talk about the latest model that we saw in regards to the number of days and the expected fire spread over that period of time? That'd be great. Thank you.
I'm gonna split this up a little bit. I'm gonna let my federal partners discuss the FS Pro modeling. I'm more familiar with that. I'm gonna borrow a lesson I think we learned out of COVID when we were talking about when are we going to be able to open this, or when are we going to be able to open that? And we said repeatedly, it's not a date. It's a set of conditions, and that's the same thing I'm going to say for evacuations. We can't give you, we can't tell you, when and where. We can tell you that once we look at some of these management action points that we've had out there, it's going to be based entirely on what goes on with the fire behavior and the fuels. And we have good intel on that, including infrared flights that fly at night. I know Jason's up early, shooting me the best stuff he's got early in the morning, first cup of coffee. So it's going to be based on conditions on the ground. But beyond that, I'll let my federal partners discuss the modeling they're using.
Let's see if Evans, did you want to jump in and talk a little bit about the modeling and the day run and what you're expecting to see in the next 6 to 14 days, perhaps?
Certainly. So the problem with models is, well, there's all models are correct when the inputs are correct. And so right now, if you look at like the weather forecasts, we run a lot of different types of modeling for that. And sometimes when all the models start agreeing, you start gaining confidence in what the weather forecast is going to be. Right now, the fire behavior modeling that we're doing, it suggests a lot of different things. So I don't want to alarm people, but at the same time, I don't want to dismiss any of the what some of the models are saying and give false expectations, because we do have some models that show that the fire will never get there because of all the natural barriers such as the rock and the granite, and then the Lion's Head fire scar. But then we also have some other models which show some pretty aggressive movement depending on where there is unburned fuels and following some of the drainage bottoms where the winds are channeling and funneling. Probably what we're most likely going to see is somewhere in between those two bookends, if you will. To what extent and how far and how fast the fire moves, a lot of that's going to depend on those winds that are forecasted to be fairly aggressive up on the ridgetop, up on the crest. There is a chance that it could be upwards in the 50 to 70 mile an hour, especially in some of the channeling in the narrow canyon areas where the winds have a tendency to follow the topography. But I do want to say that we are monitoring it very closely, and the whole point of us having the management action points is so if the fire makes it to a certain point, so like the first one would be Pincushion Mountain. If the fire makes it to at that far, we know it's got to get through some rock. We know it has to get through the South Fork of the San Joaquin River. But if it does make it to the Pincushion Mountain, at that point, we're going to be triggering certain actions, increasing the response over on the Mammoth Lakes side. And then also making sure that we're notifying everybody and then reconsidering some of the previous assumptions that we had regarding how likely is this fire going to get through and how accurate are some of the models. Once we have those calibrated, we can then make more informed decisions and then also continue to monitor the fire, so that if the fire then manages to make it farther north and into the Fish Creek drainage, by that point, I think we will have a lot better assessment of exactly how this fire is moving and how it's burning through the rocks, if it is even able to burn through the rocks. See, that's the big question right now. With the winds that we are expecting, I'd say that the likelihood it's higher than had we not had the winds. But that being said, with all the natural barriers and the rocks that we do have in place and the fire scar out in front, the likelihood it kind of, the winds push the probability up, but then all the natural barriers kind of try to drive it back down. It's very hard for me to give you a number, and certainly I'm not into betting or odds giving at the horse track races, and I'm not about to give you any odds right now when we're taking this very seriously because people's lives are at stake. So what best we can do is identify these various trigger points and management actions that the sheriff and the fire chief have mentioned, and we're going to work through that plan as long as that plan remains valid. If we have to call an audible, like the chief said, then certainly we will be talking and adjusting that plan based on conditions. So hopefully that answers your question.
I believe so. I think Evans has got an invitation to come back and join us for another conversation. Justin, we've got about 5 minutes to go. Any kind of main themed questions that we haven't covered this evening?
If an evacuation order is put in place, how can home and business owners shut down exactly? Is there a checklist, turning off gas, turning on sprinklers? What are the things they need to do?
Again, I'd reference you back to our Ready, Set, Go page. It does help out with some of that. You shut down your businesses every day. You do it after holidays. You just want to be thinking about doing those same things again, but preparing ahead of time. The process of shutting it down isn't really any different. We're just having you think ahead because it may not be on your timetable now.
Thank you, Chief. Justin.
Just scrolling through.
Yep.
Stu, and I know Frank Chief Freevault has kind of expressed it, and so did the incident command. Everything seems to be around the evacuation, and I think if Chief Freevault would really kind of hammer home, it's like, hey, we're talking days out before, we're really looking at anything stupid, unless the winds completely come out of nowhere and nobody saw anything coming, to where, like, at least put people at ease of, yes, we're days, if not further out, to where we have to really concern ourselves. And a whole lot of information is going to come out from us, from this group, to let people know, between social media, all the other ways to let people know that, hey, something's coming and we need to worry about it. So I'm diverting to Chief. While there can't be a trigger date, you're still looking way out.
Yeah, I mean, to Chief Davis's point, you look on the map, I think the last time I, used one of those simplistic tools, we were looking at about, 15 some odd miles. There's a lot more to it with all the barriers that Evans mentioned and those things. So from that perspective, that said, we should have some warning. We have good intel on it. Like I say, we can't see down in there, but they've got good IR tools. We look at those. In terms of the creek fire, then that's where we're at. As Pancho had said earlier, we're talking about a low likelihood, high complexity event. We want to be way out in front of that. That said, anytime we have high winds at this time of year in a mountain community, it could be as simple as some abandoned campfire we haven't found yet that was left recently that's a lot closer than the creek fire. So as with any wind event that comes in, pay attention, be ready, set, go, regardless. And we're looking at the creek fire, but always watch the weather. You certainly do it, when the snow's flying, right? We want to know how early we've got to get out there in the snowblower. Just pay attention here too. We've got some weather coming in. Stay tuned.
Great. With that, we are going to wrap up. I just want to provide the opportunity for any presenter to have any final comments for the audience this evening. Thank you. Chief.
One quick one, and it was a great point brought to my office manager, Caroline Sanderson. She's outstanding. She fields 1,000 phone calls a day. For those of you that are listening closely, whether it's on scanners or different sources, when you hear Bald Mountain or Dry Creek or Mill Creek, there are thousands of those across the U.S. So when you hear a term, even though we've got one of those locally, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the local one that we have, especially when this fire is as large as it is, and we also have other large fires in the region. So when social media starts getting out ahead with some geographic terms or phrases that are real common, please dig just a little bit further to see if you can find out if it's one of the local ones before we start setting off all these kind of false alarms on social media. There's no way we can keep up with it. Even the sheriff, and she is pretty darn quick on the draw with that. So help us out with a little bit with that, and give it just one more look before you hit the launch button on social media, please.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Pancho. You still got your mute button on there, Pancho. Sorry.
Man, I did it again. I'm on these calls all day long. You'd think I'd learn.
Yep.
I just want to say how much I appreciate the cooperation between the agencies here. I have worked all over the United States, and the cooperation and the coordination that we have here among the various public safety agencies is beyond compare. It's a great place. The public is very, very well protected here. Your people here, your fire chief, the sheriff, everybody are top notch, and I just want to express the how much I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pancho. Any other presenters have any final closing comments?
Yeah, Chief Davis, real quick, again, and to echo what Pancho said, but and we have had a really good, in the last 5 years, 4.5, anyway, the relationship between the Mono County Sheriff's Department, the fire department, all our community partners has been outstanding, and it continues to do so on this point. And the idea of the safety of this community is absolute tantamount to all of us, is forefront. And we are looking way ahead for this, and just trying to get information out to people ahead of time so that you can prepare and realize that we're preparing way in advance of you, and really concerned about the community, and want to make sure your safety is tantamount. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. With that, I've just shared my screen. Had some questions in regards to the video. So the video from this evening will be posted. It has been recorded, and it'll be posted on this site that we shared with you this evening on the website there. So if you want to share that recording and watch it again, or share it with somebody who wasn't able to make it this evening, please go to that website. You'll see it up there. Again, this is the Creek Fire incident page. Definitely want to refer you to that. Jennifer does a fantastic job on the Facebook site here as well. And then again, if you had any questions that weren't answered this evening that we can help you with, creekfire@townofmammoth.ca.gov. With that, we will certainly plan based on our community, the opportunity to be and present before you again in the future. But with that, I want to thank all my presenters and everybody behind the scenes, behind the screen, so to speak, putting this together. Thank you. Be safe and stay safe. Thank you. We'll see you again.